Following on from my handbrake modification video, I thought I'd show you the sequential modification for the shifter. I've seen a few different ones out there. I've seen ones where you can buy a plate that fits underneath the gaiter here, but it's a bit too permanent if you like to switch between sequential and normal H-gate setup for for games like Dirt Rally, where I personally prefer to use the H-pattern shifter for that. And yet in games like Need for Speed, you don't have a choice but to use sequential. By default, they use the paddles. I'm not a fan of using the paddles because it's difficult to change gear, when you're steering, which you shouldn't really have to do if your driving's up to it. But there's always those occasions where you're fucking it up and you do need to change gear. So I mapped the third and fourth gear inputs to be the sequential up and down, and then did a really simple modification to the shifter here, so it returns itself to the center position. All I've done is bought two M3 hex head screws, so they look exactly like the ones that are already there, but they're longer, so they're M3 by 16 mil, these ones. Now, the thread on these is a fine thread. The original thread on these ones is actually quite a bit coarser because it screws into plastic. But it's not really an issue. The fine thread on these normal M3 screws or bolts, you might want to call them, because it's going into plastic, it kind of makes its own thread as it goes through. So they're solid, they're not going to come undone. You perhaps wouldn't want to take them in and out too many times. There's a chance there they might sort of gradually get looser, but you don't need to. You put them in once, and that's that. So yeah, M3 by 16 mil. You could use slightly shorter ones, perhaps if you wanted to, maybe 10 mil or 12 mil. But I just went for 16. It was a total stab in the dark, but it's worked. And then the other thing I've used here is a 44 mil O-ring, internal diameter 44 mil, and as you can see, it's plenty strong enough to return it back to the center position. The other thing I noticed by pushing this gaiter down when you fit this is it actually stops it from going side to side, so you can't actually sort of accidentally slip up into first or another gear by accident. You literally can only go third and fourth, which is up and down in Need for Speed. So yeah, literally 44 mil O-ring, and you can just pop it off like this, lift your gaiter back up, and you're back into your normal H-gate 6-speed shifter. Simple as that. The O-ring just sits there, it's not in the way, it doesn't go anywhere. And then of course when you want to go back to sequential, you put your O-ring back over. A little bit fiddly with just one hand, but yeah, there we go. And now you're back to sequential again. Simple as that. I mean, we're talking, obviously I'm in the UK here, we're talking less than £3 to do the modification. It looks neat and tidy. You haven't got elastic bands wrapped around here, there and everywhere. You haven't got to take the gaiter back off, to remove a plate. There's not big springs kicking about. It's simple, it's clean, it's neat, it's tidy, and best of all, it costs almost nothing. So, that coupled with the handbrake, it's a perfect setup for pretty much any and all driving games that you could think of. You've got the flexibility to go back and forward between your different type of shifters there. But yeah, so just to recap, 44 mil internal diameter for the O-ring. Find these on eBay for pennies. And two M3 by 16 mil length hexagon head screws. Again, pennies on eBay. So yeah, have fun with that, and happy racing.